Okay, so this is the second part of the video. Letting go and accepting blessings. At the very end of the last video, I talked about Jacob and about him. But now we're going to go back a little bit. And I kind of go flash forward, flash backward kind of thing. So Jacob was still holding on, and Benjamin was not an option. He was not letting go. And then Joseph, it took 13 years or so for Joseph's dream to become a fruition. Joseph remembered. So let's take you back a little bit. 13 or more years ago, he had that dream, and he told them about all his brothers and everyone bowing down before him, right? And he's like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. Isn't that awesome? And his dad's like, hey, be careful. And then he gets sold into slavery, and he's put in a dungeon and all these things. And he probably was like, I believe you're real. I know this will happen, but how could it happen? Maybe I just made it up. I don't know. Sometimes visions can seem so absolutely impossible at the time. I remember when I was up in Alaska, and it was 2007, and I was running on the treadmill, and all of a sudden God gave me this beautiful picture. It was so clear, so crystal clear, of Jonathan and I getting out of a car on a bright sunny day. And I knew it wasn't Bethel because there was like concrete and there was pavement and sidewalks and stuff. And so I knew we weren't in Bethel, and we were in a car that wasn't ours. And he took a baby out of a car seat, and we walked into a church, and it was so beautiful. It was so perfect and the vision would not stop. It just kept coming into me. And so I got off the treadmill, and I just prayed and praised God over and over again that there would be a baby, and that my husband would be in church with me. And it wasn't 1 year later that vision actually happened. And we were in Rochester, and we were taking Evelyn into church to be dedicated. You just don't know when it will happen. You don't know how it will happen, but God promises he comes through. And so Joseph is now in the part where he's going to see the fulfillment of his vision. And he remembered about those visions, and how this was done was probably much different than what he thought it would look like and how it would happen. So now we have to think about the blessings. Are we what keeps us back from our blessings? Are we preventing our blessings with something we are doing or not doing? We need to do the checkup in the heart and in the head, see what's going on. Are we holding it back? Jacob held back the blessing. Joseph had to go through things to learn things. He wasn't holding back his vision from coming, but Jacob was. So we have to make sure that we're on the right side, okay? So then when he has the opportunity to do to the brothers what they did to him, he does a little bit of payback that I'd never seen before, but he does it with compassion. Joseph did to them what they did to him. He watched how they responded to being the recipient of the punishment instead of the giver. And this is when he took one of the brothers and put him in jail. And so this is very similar to what happened to him. And he harshly treated and things. But what he saw was a bunch of broken men racked with guilt. He gave them a way out of prison. They never did that for him. His intentions were good, while their intentions all those years ago were bad. He bound Simeon before their eyes. Now they're watching another brother be imprisoned. And how are they able to watch this happen for a second time without freaking out? I would have lost my ever-loving mind. Is it because it was out of their hands and they just thought this was just punishment for what they did? I don't know. Now they had no control over what happened while one was enslaved and imprisoned. They knew there was a way out. Joseph never had that promise. He had God, and that was it. But they said, they knew that here's what we can do to get out of prison. Joseph, he was gone forever. So there's the compassion. Jacob sees this when they tell him. Jacob sees this as a promise to have more taken from him and refuses to consider the idea of going back with Benjamin. He's like, no, absolutely not. So this is only going to end up with more heartache and more pain and more grief, and I'm going to lose even more. So instead of trusting in God, he's trusting in a negative outcome that could happen. And I do this all the time. like, no, I've already been through too much. I cannot do any more. So who's in charge? Maggie's in charge then. Maggie's saying God can't possibly work here because this is too big for him. And Maggie knows better than God. Would I say that out loud? No, but that's really what I'm doing when I try to take control. So that's what Jacob's doing. He's like, not going to happen. No. So Jacob calls Benjamin, my son. He doesn't call him your brother. He calls Joseph, who's Benjamin's brother. Okay, so not their brother. He goes, I've already lost Benjamin's brother. I'm not going to lose my son as well. So he's only looking at it from a very selfish point of view. He's not even considering how this would impact the brothers and all of that. Jacob can only see that Benjamin is in danger and not how there are others who need help. He's so focused on his own hurt and his own pain that he never looks up to see how this is impacting other people. I do that all the time. How can I possibly go and help someone else? How can I possibly care about what they're going through when my heart hurts so bad? And then I feel bad because I'm always going to have pain and trauma and trials and whatever. But, okay, what can I do about that? If there's going to always be some sort of pain or turmoil or trauma, why not just put my own needs aside and go see what everybody else needs and try to just be a friend so that they don't feel alone and isolated like I do. So things needed to get worse before Jacob would consider letting go of control. I don't want to hold on to something so long that I lose everything because I was afraid of losing something small and insignificant. I'll tell you, trust and being vulnerable are very challenging for me. It had to become a dire situation. Jacob only can see what he could lose. He is not giving any control over to God. He's holding on with a tight fist. He fought the situation. He fought reality because he didn't like it. He turns against his sons and blames them for the problem. He even accused him. Even when they were accused and mistreated by their dad, they continued to be respectful, yet firm about what needs to be done. Sometimes when you're in grief, you're not thinking straight, you're not being rational, and you need people around you who can be strong, kind, compassionate, yet firm. There's no reason for them to be calling him any kind of names or being mean or chastising him. There's always a way to be kind. If he doesn't move, everyone's going to starve to death. The pain of the lack of food was probably being felt daily. Judah takes on responsibility for the entire household, the entire clan. And this is where you start to see his leadership skills. When Jacob finally relents, he decides to bring offerings and show his best side. When he decides or is forced to agree to allow Benjamin to go with them, then he asks for God to keep them safe. Like, okay, God, you can finally be allowed to move. Well, how long did they all have to wait for healing because Jacob thought that God couldn't bless him? How long did he hold back from God's goodness? I don't want to be there. It's hard sometimes when you can't see in front of you and you don't know what's going to happen. But God can see already what's happening, and he knows. So then he asks God to help him and keep them safe. If I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. He is finally able to accept that this consequence is a possibility. He had to allow the absolute worst to be a possibility. It always was a possibility. But he wasn't allowing it. He thought, if I just keep control over everything, then it won't happen. Benjamin could have died at any time. So he truly didn't have control. But now that he's allowing control to be moved to someone else and letting go of that tight fist, then God's able to move. God's not going to force our hands open. So he accepts what he must place on the altar, like Abraham had to be willing to let go of his biggest treasure, his son Isaac, to show where his loyalty lie. We all have something that we need to lay on the altar. And it means different things at different times. What's your most treasured, valued possession? What are you afraid to let go of? Because what happens if you let go of it? Does that mean that you have nothing left? Jacob was asked to do the same thing that Abraham was. Joseph saw all the brothers together and instructed them to have dinner at his house. This would be different than the last time that they were there. The brothers only thought about what happened last time and how they had to fix the situation. So everything has changed, but they don't know it yet because they're still consumed and racked with guilt. My bunnies are having a chasing fest right now. They figured this will only end badly because they were given all of their money back. This is a setup for the ultimate punishment in their mind because guilt is all they can see. Without the blood of Jesus, that's all of us. All you can ever see is the guilt and the suffering. But with Jesus, we're free and we don't have to live according to the guilt anymore. So then I started thinking about, I'm kind of in a mire, mucky situation right now. And I was thinking about the other day, he leadeth me beside still waters, and he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. And so I started looking up the endings of the King James, E-T-H-E-S-T, and it means it's present tense. So really what he's saying is, he's making me to lie down in green pastures right now. He is leading me right now beside still waters. Still waters is calm and peace. He's leading me beside them. He's restoring my soul. He's leading me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He's in the process of doing that right now. He didn't do that before. He's doing it now. He was doing it before, but it's continuing. So this isn't a past. It's not a future thing. It's right now. And then he goes on and talks directly to God. And he says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup is running over. And so as I go through the mire and the muck and the hurt and the pain and the disappointment and the confusion, I'm thinking about all of this and I want the blessings desperately. But I believe I'm still like Jacob trying to hold back because letting go is too painful. And so this is what I have. And this is Maggie talking to Maggie here. When you're all alone and left with nothing, you have to lean on God. We moved to Tennessee and then we lost our best friends. Evelyn has nobody. And I keep going, why did we move here? What good can come out of this? What's the purpose of all this? If we have nobody here, but well, you have to lean on God. He becomes your best friend, your confidant. So talking to Maggie, you got to put down your phone and stop distracting yourself and pick up your conversation with Jesus. In the middle of the problem, God prepares a feast for you. What is presented before you? Everything you need to survive. You may not get all your wants, but you will dine with the Master before your enemies. In the midst of your adversity, God will. What will he do? He'll provide. He'll bless. He'll secure. He'll make a way. He just moves around or moves whatever's in the way to provide for you because, well, let's think about who he is and where he is. The Bible says, look up, your redemption draweth nigh. What does he look like? He looks like what you need. He is everywhere. He knows everything, and he has all power. So God will lead us, but what we need to do is let go. We need to take whatever we're holding on to that hurts so hard to think about letting it go, and we have to open our hands and let the hurt of release happen so that God can move. Because he's faithful and he's able.